Alan Milton here. Detective, reluctant biographical subject, and the man who put an end to a serial killer's reign through means so novel, I hope they remain unparalleled. This isn't boasting. Soon, a biography with a team of fact-checkers will lay bare the truth of my claim. This isn't for profit. I'm barred from earning a cent. But that's a story for later. Let's rewind to the beginning of this horrible case. The city's heartbeat was erratic, terror its new rhythm, as a shadowy predator claimed life after life. Every daybreak heralded a chilling discovery, a body marked with meticulous patterns, a grotesque artist's signature. We were at a crossroads with the media, ultimately choosing to release just enough to entice tips, however speculative. Amongst the charade, we named him the Timekeeper, a nod to the antique timepieces he left. Each stopped at a specific moment, a clue, I was sure. During the press briefing, I gambled, fabricating a detail about post-mortem bites, a feint to sift the genuine from the fraudulent. The response was brutal. The next victim was more than a message. It was personal. Mary, someone I once promised forever, lay there unrecognized until her ID whispered her name to me. A decade of silence between us, and yet the killer drew a line straight to her. The case turned personal, and I should have been sidelined by protocol. But Mary's death remained my secret as the case progressed. When a macabre set of toy dentures soaked in blood appeared at my doorstep, the message was unmistakable. The killer haunted my every moment, every lead a siren's call, every dead end a descent into madness. One evening, exhaustion claimed me and I awoke disoriented, the line between day and night blurred. A newspaper headline screamed of a seventh victim, and I was jolted back to duty. A lead from the hotline had gone unchecked, an oversight that led to another life snuffed out at 3:30 p.m. Guilt was my shadow, and soon my captain insisted on a mandatory leave of absence. I still wanted to help. Desperation led me to set a technological trap, setting up cameras, peering from every nook in case the killer left another memento for me. Time became a loop of nightmares, each a prelude to a murder I was powerless to stop. One morning, everything changed. While reviewing the video surveillance from the previous day, something caught my eye. On the screen, I saw myself, but not the version I recognized. This version of me had a cold, dead stare, and in his hand, he clutched an antique pocket watch. My heart sank. The footage showed me leaving my apartment, the watch in hand, and returning hours later, a sinister satisfaction on my face. As the realization hit, I frantically called my captain to confess, but then I felt a sharp pain in my head and the world went black. When I awoke, I was strapped to a bed in a white room, the sharp sting of antiseptics in the air. A doctor stood beside me, a look of pity in his eyes. "You're awake," he said gently. "Detective, you've been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. After the trauma of your partner's death, another personality emerged, one that took justice into its own hands." I stared at him, numb. My mind grew weary, the boundaries of reality blurring. Doubt gnawed at me. If not for your setting up the cameras and calling to confess what you saw, we would have a lot more victims. I had no memory of this, but at least I had done something right during my blackout. As far as the biography of my life, there is a law preventing murderers to profit in any way from their crimes, like John Wayne Casey. I had finally found out who the monster was that killed all those people, and I stopped him. That was all that mattered. That other personality wasn't me. I solved the case. "But the pocket watches," I murmured. "What do they mean?" The doctor sighed. "They represent the time of each victim's death and the moments you lost. Your other self was trying to send you a message." I wanted to die. This was too horrible. Tears welled in my eyes. "How many?" 12, he replied. "But thanks to your surveillance footage, no more lives will be lost." The room faded as sedatives took hold, but one thought remained. I was a hero. I caught the killer no matter how unorthodox my methods were. A hero. I never believed in the legend of the silent whisperer. To me, it was nothing more than a campfire story, something parents told their kids to keep them away from the old abandoned factory at the edge of town. But 3 months into my tenure as a detective in the city, I began to see a pattern that was hard to ignore. I didn't believe in some urban legend, but I did acknowledge that the evidence definitely showed a pattern. This was not a case I was assigned to. However, my curiosity led me to investigate on my free time. My current caseload involved a string of vending machines that were stolen, rookie work. The older detectives on the case were basically useless, just spinning their wheels doing the bare minimum, then on to the next case. It started with a series of break-ins. The victims all reported a faint whispering sound just before they discovered the crime. No one saw anything, but they all heard the whispers. The media caught wind of the similarities and dubbed the burglar the Silent Whisperer, our very own urban legend. Initially, I thought it was just a copycat, someone playing on the fears of the city's residents. But as I delved deeper, the connections became undeniable. The sensationalism in the press made it very difficult to conduct credible interviews with anyone, with the media narrative affecting their perspectives. The first victim lived on Elm Street, right across from where the old factory once stood. The second, a block away from the first. The third, 2 blocks from there. Each crime moved in a pattern, forming a circle around the location of the old factory. I decided to revisit the legend. As the story goes, the factory was once a bustling place of business until a tragic accident took the lives of several workers. Their cries for help went unheard, and now they roamed the area, whispering for someone to hear them. I was not admonished by my captain for working on a case that I wasn't assigned. This was not the movies. In fact, this was such a dysfunctional department that there was only an attitude of indifference. Determined to put an end to the crimes and the growing panic in the city, I decided to stake out the next likely location based on the pattern. I became a favorite source of entertainment as the older cops constantly made fun of my efforts. I didn't remotely care. I was doing another stakeout at what I thought should be the next location, and I honestly started to question my judgment. The hours dragged on, but just as dawn approached, I heard it, a faint whispering. I readied myself, holding my breath, listening for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the alleyway. I chased after it, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure moved swiftly, but I was close on its heels. As we neared the old factory, the whispering grew louder, echoing off the walls of the dilapidated building. Cornering the figure, I aimed my flashlight, revealing a young man, no older than 20. He was wearing several wireless speakers that were attached by clips to a thick workman's belt around his waist. He was hiding one of the black speakers behind a pile of rubble, the ghostly sounds blaring a haunting echo as the speakers played in all different locations at different intervals. It turned out they were timed go-off in a random sequence. I understood why people were so freaked out. Sounds from every direction emanated the eerie whispering sound. It was a recording, designed to play on the fears of the city's residents and distract them from his crimes. He didn't try to run since I had my firearm out and pointed directly at him. When I brought him into the station, the older guard that had mocked me were all eating crow, and my career got quite a boost with my newfound popularity in the local media. The legend of the Silent Whisperer was just that, a legend. But sometimes, legends have a way of becoming reality, even if it's a twisted version created by those looking to exploit them. The rise of social media had its perks, but for Detective Lara and me, it was a double-edged sword. Lara was the tech guru, always on top of the latest trends, while I preferred the old-school approach. We both worked on a task force that focused on major cases, top-of-the-food-chain criminals that run organizations. But when influencers across the city began falling prey to a devious cybercriminal, we knew we had to combine our strengths. That was what we were told, at least when we thought the case was not even worth acknowledging, since it was probably a publicity stunt. It started with top-tier influencers receiving strange messages, cryptic clues hinting at personal details from their lives. The goal was blackmail, demanding ridiculous amounts of money that would not be remotely possible for the victims to come up with. One particular influencer that had a net worth of around $2 million was asked for $10 million, a number intentionally too high to pay. Next, their accounts were hacked, their images manipulated, and their reputations tarnished. In every case, the information that was revealed either illegal activity or such abominable ethical behavior that they lost all of their standing and no career. The media dubbed him the influencer hacker. Seriously, my dog could have come up with a better name. Ridiculous, I joined the task force to be a big game hunter for major criminals, not this. As the public realized each target was a shady person in some way, the public opinion changed as they embraced the newly named Robin Hood hacker. Lara set up an intricate web of digital tripwires while I went undercover, posing as an up-and-coming influencer. This was not as easy as I thought. We couldn't just create a new influencer, so we leveraged one of them that had charges pending for an immunity deal if he worked with us. We baited the hacker, posting images and stories that seemed innocuous but were embedded with tracking software. I had several possible suspects that would be online chatting with me, and I narrowed it down to just a few hundred possibilities. That doesn't sound like narrowing it down much, unless you consider that 13 million subscribers for the influencer's channel. One evening, as I was live streaming a faux event, Lara's software pinged. A hit. The hacker was accessing my account. Not my account, I had to remind myself. I was still one of the peasants, not a rich influencer. The staggering amount of money and power they wielded amazed me. As he delved deeper, feeding on the bait, Lara traced his location. It led to a nondescript apartment building downtown. There was a great chance that the guy had tricked our techs, and this was just of many dummy servers. We stormed the place, bursting through the door. Inside, surrounded by an array of monitors, sat a young woman. I had a list of suspects that were almost all men. I realized what a caveman I was, not giving much thought to the hacker being a woman. Surprisingly, she didn't seem shocked. "Took you long enough," she smirked. It turned out she was a former influencer, her career destroyed by a single scandal. What she was accused of was basically copyright issues, as she modeled her broadcasts to be like the top influencers. Seeking revenge, she targeted those who she felt had wronged her. She intended to show the world how much worse the people were that ruined her career, planning to get caught all along so her story would be told. What a stupid way to achieve her goal. Without the blackmailing, she could have still released the information showing the dirt on these people. And if she posted anonymously, she wouldn't even have the hacking charges. She could have still led a full life, which was much better than prison, even if she couldn't be an influencer anymore. With the combined powers of technology and old-fashioned detective work, the shadow hacker's reign came to an end. It was a waste of our time. There were drug kingpins and human traffickers out there that demanded our attention more than a hacker with hurt feelings, acting out like a petulant child.